The Diddy trial has just taken a shocking turn, and what's happening in court could change everything. Witnesses revealing explosive allegations, damning video evidence, and legal twists that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Is justice finally coming for Diddy, or is this just the beginning of a battle that's far from over? Stay tuned as we break down the latest updates from the courtroom. You won't believe what happened next. Let's get into it. On day 2 of the trial, prosecutors appeared to secure a notable, albeit nuanced, victory. While the win didn't come in the form of a straightforward conviction, the evidence and testimonies presented significantly challenged Diddy's defense and bolstered the prosecution's narrative. Central to this was the testimony of Cassie, a key witness whose accounts of threats and coercion could be pivotal in swaying the jury. One of the most impactful moments was Cassie's testimony regarding Diddy's alleged threats to release videos of their intimate encounters. Cassie claimed that Diddy warned her he would release videos of the freak-offs involving her, a statement that prosecutors argue constitutes extortion. Under U.S. law, extortion involves threatening to reveal damaging information unless the victim complies with certain demands. The prosecution's position is that such threats demonstrate coercion, an essential element in establishing criminal misconduct. If Diddy indeed threatened to release compromising videos unless Cassie participated in further acts, it would suggest a use of force or intimidation that could meet the legal threshold for coercion. However, the crux of the case hinges on whether Cassie explicitly connected these threats to specific demands, whether she was coerced into acts she otherwise wouldn't have engaged in, or whether she simply feared the repercussions of the videos being released. Prosecutors needed her to clarify that the threat was conditional and that she felt compelled to act out of fear, not free will. What has been proven? While the threat to release videos is undeniably damaging, a critical issue remains. Did Diddy's actions cross the line into criminal coercion? For a conviction, prosecutors must prove that Diddy used force, threats, or intimidation to compel Cassie into unwanted acts. In the courtroom, prosecutors presented other testimonies that added layers to this narrative. For instance, Cassie described feeling humiliated and unable to talk about certain incidents, an emotional state that hints at coercion but doesn't definitively prove it. She also recounted being asked gently about her concerns, emphasizing her reluctance and discomfort, but stopping short of explicitly stating she was forced. A significant part of the proceedings involved detailed testimonies about specific incidents, some of which are deeply disturbing. Cassie testified about instances where she was allegedly urinated on during freak-offs, with mentions of Sean, another individual involved, urinating on her at Diddy's direction. She described these acts as disgusting and expressed her clear lack of desire for them, asserting she never explicitly consented. This raises a crucial legal question. Does failing to explicitly object constitute consent or coercion? In criminal law, explicit objection can be a key element to demonstrate that acts were non-consensual. Cassie's testimony that she didn't explicitly say no complicates the case for the prosecution, which must establish that Diddy forced her into acts against her will. The defense is expected to argue that Cassie's silence or lack of explicit objection doesn't necessarily prove coercion, especially given the power dynamics at play. They may contend that her silence or passive participation reflects coercion or manipulation, but it doesn't conclusively establish force or duress as legally required. Domestic violence and its role in the case. The trial also touches on allegations of domestic violence, an issue that significantly complicates the narrative. Cassie testified about instances where she had to hide in hotel rooms for weeks to allow bruises to heal, suggesting episodes of physical abuse. Diddy's defense admits that domestic violence occurred, but argues that it was mutual and not criminal. Importantly, the case at hand is not a domestic violence charge, but involves allegations related to sexual misconduct and coercion across interstate boundaries. The prosecution aims to differentiate between mutual domestic violence and targeted coercive acts intended to manipulate or control. The 2016 Intercontinental Hotel incident. A turning point? One of the most recent and impactful pieces of evidence involves the 2016 incident at the Intercontinental Hotel. Cassie testified that she tried to leave the hotel after a session with Diddy, but he assaulted her, throwing her to the ground and grabbing her by the neck. Prosecutors played a video of the incident, which appears to show Diddy physically assaulting Cassie. This footage could be a game changer. If the jury believes Diddy physically assaulted her because she wanted to leave, it directly supports the argument that he used force against her. The timing of this incident, immediately after a session, closes a critical loop in the narrative, demonstrating a pattern of behavior that could justify a conviction. The fact that Cassie attempted to leave and was physically restrained aligns with the legal definition of coercion or force. It could serve as compelling evidence that Diddy acted violently to prevent her from leaving, thus fulfilling the element of force necessary for criminal charges. Throughout the proceedings, the handling of evidence, such as the freak-off videos, testimonies about drug use, domestic violence, and physical assaults, will determine the trial's outcome. The prosecution's strategy hinges on establishing a pattern of coercive behavior, while the defense seeks to undermine the credibility of the witnesses and emphasize ambiguities. The court's decision on whether to admit certain videos into evidence, especially those that may show explicit acts, will also influence public perception and jury deliberation. The defense objects to these videos being shown publicly, citing media exposure concerns, but the judge's rulings will be pivotal, winners and losers in the courtroom. This trial exemplifies the complex nature of justice in high-profile cases involving power, fame, and allegations of abuse. Both sides have compelling arguments, but the outcome ultimately depends on how convincingly each side can connect the dots of evidence. Prosecutors wins. The threat to release videos as extortion is a powerful piece of evidence. The 2016 hotel incident with video footage could serve as direct proof of physical assault. Testimonies about domestic violence and coercive acts bolster the narrative of a pattern of abuse. Prosecutors' challenges. Establishing force or coercion beyond reasonable doubt remains difficult. The lack of explicit objections or denials from Cassie about certain acts may weaken claims of non-consent. The potential impact of media exposure and public scrutiny could influence jury perceptions. Defense's position emphasizes ambiguities and the importance of explicit objection or refusal. Argues that the evidence does not definitively prove coercion or force. Highlights the mutual nature of domestic disputes and questions the credibility of certain testimonies. The real-time courtroom developments. In a dramatic turn, just after the initial analysis, new evidence was introduced that could significantly sway the case. Prosecutors played a video showing Diddy allegedly physically assaulting Cassie at the 2016 hotel. Cassie testified that she tried to leave the hotel after a session, but was physically restrained and thrown to the ground, with Diddy grabbing her by the neck. This footage appears to be direct evidence of physical assault, which could be pivotal. If the jury accepts that Diddy assaulted her because she wanted to leave, it strongly supports the argument that he used force, satisfying a crucial element of the charges. The timing of this incident also helps close a critical narrative loop, showing a clear instance where Diddy allegedly used violence to prevent her from leaving, aligning with allegations of coercion and abuse. The unfolding verdict and its potential impact. The Diddy trial remains one of the most closely watched cases in recent years, highlighting issues of abuse, coercion, and the power dynamics inherent in celebrity culture. While the prosecution has made significant strides, particularly with the threat to release videos and the recent evidence of physical assault, the case hinges on whether the jury finds sufficient proof of force or coercion to convict. The testimonies, video evidence, and legal arguments all play crucial roles in shaping the outcome. Prosecutors appear to have gained ground with evidence of physical violence and threats, but the challenges of proving coercion without explicit objections or clear communications remain. Whether Diddy will be found guilty or acquitted, one thing is certain. This trial will have lasting repercussions for how allegations of abuse and coercion are understood in the context of celebrity culture and the justice system.